guys, welcome back to Nostalgic Sensation. Vivian here. Thank you guys so much for dropping by my YouTube channel today. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and if you've always been here, thank you so much for your support. Today I'm going to be diving into what did the British ever do for us? What did the British ever do for us? And before I dive right into the video, I want to encourage us to stick around to the end of the video because I have a very special announcement to make at the very end of the video. So without further ado, let's dive right into the video. Let's find out what the British ever did for us.
What did the British, ever do for us? Scientific.
British bastards, but no, I'm not one to refer to them as bastards, and I don't know why that is there, but let's find out why. I don't regard them as bastards, so that phrase is a bit confusing for me. British bastards, but well, let's find out the buts.
Nowadays, our education system regards the British as brutal colonists who enslaved populations, subjugated the world. Out of roughly 200 countries in the world today, the Brits colonised, settled or invaded about 90% of them, which I think is fairly impressive, or at least I think the Romans would think it was impressive.
It is impressive to me.
Would we have been better off without those bastard Brits? Now, as it happens, they may have some redeeming features. If you look at their scientific contribution, at least. Now, this is a slightly different video to normal, and I'm going to talk about the British scientific and technological achievements and inventions, even though I could mention trivial things like the British invention of some of the best countries in the world, like Australia, Canada, Singapore, New Zealand, America. Well, maybe not invented, but they were certainly highly influenced. Or even the only decent country in the Middle East, which is Israel, courtesy of Mr. Balfour, and many other countries that have a great deal to be proud of, such as Malaya, South Africa, Fiji, Kenya, Botswana, Sri Lanka, India, all wonderful British creation.
Hold on a bit. I don't know, why don't I see Nigeria on the list? I'm Nigerian, and Nigeria was colonized by the British and was formed by the British. And why did he not think to put Nigeria on the list? I feel offended.
But we're a science channel, and we're going to look at science. Now, the list is long of scientific achievements, and I'm only going to look at the really big ones and some of the more important ones. Let's start. Let's start with transport and engines. So the British invented the railways, steel tracks, railway locomotives. In fact, wherever the British went, railways followed. So they put in railways in Germany, India, South America, and of course everybody copied that. Then we have the modern bicycle, initially called the Rover safety bicycle apparently, chain drive, caster steering and relatively small wheels, invented by the Rover company. In fact, in Poland, the word for bicycle is Rover. And yes, it's the same company that makes Land Rovers. Now, the British obviously invented the first engines, which was the steam engine, and that broke us free from back-breaking animal and human-powered devices. Now, while the British were inventing the steam engine, they, of course, had to invent the piston. And more importantly, the piston ring that seals the piston, a truly remarkable technological invention which is even now being developed further. And the piston ring is the basis for petrol engines and diesel engines, in fact, virtually every engine. So no Brits, no engines. Next, they invented the first engine-powered ships, obviously steam-powered. Ships' propellers, steel ships, the steam turbine, initially for powering ships, but now it powers the generators in every coal electricity generating plant and every nuclear generating plant. So that's about 50% of all the electricity that's generated today, all courtesy of Mr. Parsons. Then we have the jet engine. Yes, the Germans independently invented it in the Second World War. The turboprop engine, invented by the Brits, the first turboprop aircraft. So if you don't fly in an airplane powered by a jet engine, which was largely due to the Brits, it's a turboprop airplane which was invented by the Brits. And of course the turboprop is the basis of the gas turbine, which is used to generate another 20% of the world's electricity.
Oh
We
my
also
God.
have the modern car layout: front drive, transverse engine, independent suspension, CV joints on the front wheels. Before that, companies tried all sorts of arrangements. So, for example, the Germans famously had the engine and everything at the back, but since 1959, most cars use the mini minor equivalent. Ever been on a vehicle that uses steel wheels? Pretty uncomfortable. But don't worry, the Brits invented the pneumatic tyre. So it looks like the British have invented pretty much everything that runs on the road.
I think at this point the question should be, what did the Brits not ever do for us? Because this is a long list of invention, and they're not like little inventions or something. They're like key
They
inventions
didn't invent
that back up our day-to-day life. It's mind-blowing.
the road, that's just about it. Well, actually, they did. Tarmac roads, or tarmacadam, was invented by a Scot and a Welshman. Then we have
Interesting.
steel bridges. And here's a very interesting one: the modern traffic roundabout in the 1960s. Now, you might think that roundabouts have been around since way before the 1960s, but the Brits had the inspired idea of changing the rules for the roundabout. In other words, yield to enter, which massively increases the efficiency of the roundabout. Then we have the cat's eye reflector. Caterpillar tracks, which the Brits invented just before they invented the tank. So there's much more we could talk about in terms of transport technology, but we must move on to other industrial and technological stuff. Now, of course, Britain famously started the Industrial Revolution in the 18th and 19th century, and it's debated why it started in the United Kingdom, but clearly there was something special going on that made that spark. And of course, it started in the textile and agricultural industry. In the textiles, they invented the flying shuttle, powered looms, the spinning mill for making threads. In fact, if you didn't have the Brits, you don't have the very fine modern clothing which we have now, which is also incredibly cheap compared with what it used to be. In the agricultural industries,
What did the Brits
there are all
not
sorts of
ever do
mechanical
for us?
devices like the mechanical seed drill, the haymaking threshing machine, but also really important things like phosphate fertilizer production, selective breeding. But that's just the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. If you're going to have an Industrial Revolution, you need a big build buildings. And so the British gave us Portland cement, a revolutionary type of cement. Where would we be without it? Then we have things like steel boring machines, which led to the modern lathe, which is ubiquitous in metal cutting. Hyper-accurate machines for measuring things, the micrometer, for instance. You cannot have modern engineering unless you have hyperfine methods for measuring things. We have stainless steel, the production of polyethylene, very famous practice, plastic used in just about everything. The steel hammer for forging steel and making it much stronger. The Bessemer steel process, the first mass production of steel effectively. And then the mass production of glass using the now ubiquitous virtually tin flotation method. All right, let's go a little bit electrical. So the first long distance communication cables were invented by the Brits, the coaxial cable. This was used for underwater cables to link the UK to America and other places. The first intercontinental communication, the birth of the internet in a sense. It was the first time that we could communicate all around the world.
What did the Brits not ever do for us?
Alexander Graham Bell was a Scotsman. Television, liquid crystal, cavity magnetron. You've never heard of the cavity? It's in your microwave, but probably more importantly, the first radars to a large extent used the cavity magnetron, which was a revolution. Then if we go a little bit medical, we've got CAT scanners, ultrasound scanners, the first town to have chlorinated water, How about the first electronic programmable computer to crack German codes in the Second World War? Accurate navigation using highly accurate clocks, the chronometers, and the first workable atomic clock. Then we have the World Wide Web, a gas stove, tin cans, and a really big one. I know you've been wondering where I get to this one. An alarm clock that makes tea.
What?
Again, I could
Oh
have
my
added many,
god,
many
I
more
need
things,
something
but
like that.
let's go on to fundamental science, the
Where
stuff
can I
that
get it?
all other science and technology actually depends upon. But before we do that, maybe just like and subscribe. How about the discovery of the proton, neutron, and electron? The three building blocks of, well, frankly, just
Everything.
about everything, all discovered by Brits. And the Brits also discovered the opposite of matter, which is antimatter, by Paul Dirac. And more recently, the last particle in the standard physics model of just about everything, the Higgs boson, which was proposed by Peter Biggs. Now let's go a little bit bigger, but not a great deal bigger. The atom, the model of the atom with a hard nucleus with the electrons flying around, was essentially discovered by the British. And I'm being a little bit loose there because there is a famous New Zealander involved with this, but frankly in those days Kiwis were basically Brits. What about biology? Well, in my view, the two biggest advances in biology were both discovered by Brits. The first one is Charles Darwin's theory of evolution.
Charles Darwin is
And then you
British.
have the discovery of the structure of DNA at Cambridge University. Fundamental molecular biology of which the whole DNA revolution has been based on. And yes, I know Watson was an American and Wilkins was a Kiwi. Anyway, of course, the discovery of the structure meant this explosion in growth of the whole DNA industry, effectively, such as DNA fingerprinting, now invented by the Brits. Now let's go back to more basic, very fundamental, and possibly more important medicine. We have antiseptics, antibiotics, vaccines, all three invented by Brits. But let's go back to
They are inventing everything, guys.
physics now. So we have Newton's laws of motion, Newton's
Oh my god.
laws of gravity. Where would we be without?
Like there has to be a reason why. I don't think that the whole world could not have, actively contributed the way they have. I feel like their government might have put something in place that encouraged people and might have actually invested in it because in Nigeria, there have been a couple of, kids that come up with, I think a few months ago, I came across this news headline about this little boy that figured out a way to, make cars that are powered by water. I mean, if you think of it, it's brilliant, but I haven't heard anything since then. So I feel like if the government of, the government of the people in those days were very invested and were willing to actually sponsor this project because I mean I haven't even heard of the little boy ever since and I've not heard of a car yet made that fully powered by water or whatever. But the point is I believe there were systems that were put in place to encourage this because this is insane. Like they literally invented like almost everything. So the question should be, what did the British never do for us?
Sir Isaac Newton. We essentially couldn't predict anything. Back onto the physics, the laws of optics and the way that radio waves travel, light, the laws of electromagnetic propagation in signals and wires, Scotsman James Clerk Maxwell's. You don't have any mobile phones or computers or communication cables without Maxwell. And then we have electromagnetic induction from Michael Faraday's. If you don't understand magnetic induction, there are no electric motors, there's no electric generators. Basically, the whole backbone of the electricity system you owe it to the Brits. Or in mathematics, and there are a lot here, so I'm going to pick the really big one, which is the invention of calculus. Yes, there was another guy called Leibniz who also invented it at the same time, but essentially Newtonian calculus is at the basis of a huge amount of advanced science of engineering. It's as fundamental as algebra and arithmetic. Now, this list is not complete. There are literally a zillion other things that the Brits have contributed to. Actually, there is just one more: the Flushing loo. Now, obviously, much of what those British scientists did was based on other scientists from lots of other countries, and the Brits were just part of this magnificent thing which we call Western civilization. Of course, there were French and there were Germans, and the scientific development and advancement then spread to the United States and now to the Far East. But the contribution of the Brits were utterly fundamental on so many levels. Now, without those advancements, our lives would be short, harsh, and frankly just bloody horrible. The world's population would still be about 1 billion, which is what it was in about 1800, rather than the roughly 8 billion that it is today without that wonderful science and technology. Now, if you add up all the bad things that the Brits may have done, you know, the Amritsar massacre, the Bengal famine, and all the other bad things that happened, albeit only occasionally considering the attitudes of the times. But even if you add all those up, it's not a drop in the bucket compared with what has been achieved and the lives that they've saved. How many lives, how many babies, children, were saved by antibiotics and antiseptics, clean water, or the uses of electricity, communications and transport? Famines are effectively a thing of the past because, well, for one reason, we can shift food around from one place to another very, very easily. Now look, it turns out that I was born in England, and even though I'm an Aussie, so I am biased. But I don't think it makes sense to be proud of what your ancestors did or were unless there's some evidence that you carry on those ideas, values and traditions. But even if you don't measure up to those ancestors or other people's ancestors, it's just bad form not to appreciate what those people did for us. The contribution of the Brits was truly incredible, and we should all be grateful that they came along and did more than virtually any other group to pull humanity out of the appalling, difficult lives that existed before the 1800s. So, do you think the ledger for those bastard Brits, is it positive or negative?
Positive at this point. Absolutely positive at this point because, for one, I do feel stupid because I haven't invented anything. I can't imagine what the educational system was like back in the day for them to have churned out this amount of product. It must have been so intensive, the educational system back in the day, and the support of the government. That is my belief of this. But at the end of the day, what did the British never do for us? Because if you ask me, they have done almost everything. Once again, thank you guys for dropping by my YouTube channel. I absolutely enjoyed this one. Stunning revelation, if you ask me. Make sure you stick around to the very end to find out. Oh my god, I don't know why it keeps falling out. But my special announcement. Until next time, bye. Thanks for watching Nostalgic Tribe. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you enjoyed today's video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comment section of what you think about today's video. And if you love to be an active member of the Nostalgic Tribe community, you can now do that by joining our membership club. We have the bronze, the silver, the diamond, and there is something for everybody. You can now make specific requests for your favorite music that you love to see on this channel, and you get access to exclusive content and live streams and listening parties that we would be hosting at Nostalgic Sensation. And if you also love to support the channel, you can do that by sharing the super likes, super stickers, super chats, and you can also buy me a coffee. And most of all, I love to connect with my subscribers. I love to connect with my supporters because you guys have been my biggest supporters from day one. And so if you love to also be a pen pal with me, you can have access to my email, and I promise that I'm going to definitely respond All links are in the description down below, and you can also purchase the Nostalgic Sensation merch, nice round neck t-shirts, and variables are available for you as well. And if you also love to check out our ebooks, that is also available for you. All links, once again, are in the description down below. And do not forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comment section. Once again, thank you so much for keeping the nostalgia alive. And I do look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.